I would like to call on the stage our commissioner to give us the purpose of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May just be easier to do it this way. Program Director, NLC Board Chairperson, Prof. Bani Patiana, members of the board, NLC management, officials present, representatives of NPOs, NPCs, government officials, Masimpiwe, our NLC strategic partners, a very good morning to you and a very warm welcome. My job this morning is very simple and straightforward. It's just to share why we are gathered here. Before I do that, though, I just want us to pause a moment and just reflect on the NLC's vision of a lottery industry that is credible, efficient, technology-driven, and progressive that benefits all South Africans. And as the NLC, we abide by the constitutional principles and values of human dignity, social justice, towards creating an egalitarian society. To give effect to our vision, the board, under the leadership of Prof. Patiana, has further developed a number of priority focus areas. And the first one centers around holistic education and family cohesion, looking at the role of ECDs, how ECDs form the bedrock for South African society, for growth, for our economy. Secondly is the development of vulnerable youth, especially youth out of school and those out of employment. A big focus is on how do we as a society and as the NLC in particular combat gender-based violence and femicide. Yesterday we had the privilege of going to the Gugulethu St. Benedict's Home for the Aged. That supports our mandate of rural development, identifying those projects in very deep rural areas who desperately need help, provide care and dignity to those vulnerable groups. And then a big focus is also on food security. We have children going to bed at night hungry. There's food rationing in many, many homes. How can the NLC ramp up our funding to support these needs? So last year in November, we had our National Indaba under the theme, Effective Regulation and Grant Making Through Digitization. We held it at the Birchwood Hotel, and we came up with a series of resolutions. These resolutions, Mpumalanga is the first province where we're doing our provincial Indaba stakeholder engagement. The intention behind this is for us to unpack those resolutions, because as the NLC, we believe that each province has very specific requirements. Our call to date has been a very general call. It's a national call, but they are specific. So we'd like to hear from you. What are those specifics? How can we take your inputs and revise the priorities in the call that make it specific and meaningful for all of you working on the ground? And so at the National Indaba, we weren't able to accommodate everybody, and that's why we then undertook, we'll do the series of provincial visits to meet with those who couldn't come to the National Indaba so that your voices are also part of our collective strategy. So, Program Director, it's my belief, I think we're going to have a very exciting program. Chair, I can confirm as I'm standing here, Chair said to me this morning, when we were looking at the numbers, he said, I don't think we're going to get the 350 that you're wanting. It's a matter of prayer and faith. And I said, Chair, that's our business. So I'm really glad that all of you could make it. Thank you very much. And once again, also my apologies on starting the program a bit late, but we want to accommodate those who are traveling so that they also get the benefit of our discussions. So Program Director, I think I've done my bits. I've warmly welcomed and I've set the scene. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much for your speech. And I must say, this is Mpumalanga, place of the rising sun. We know our beneficiary. I would like to call upon the stage the chairperson of NLC Board, Professor Penny Pichana, to provide the role of NLC in developing a winning nation, uplifting society, and elevating poverty. Prof.
I see that Commissioner struggled with this so much that I was sitting there and I knew that I could do better. Sanbonan, why are you looking so asleep? Did you have breakfast? How? And I understand you travel from long distances, some of you. Now, how much we appreciate that. We really do appreciate you taking time to be with us today. And I really appreciate the members of the board who are with us. We've got an almost full house except for two. We've got Mrs. Beryl Ferguson all the way from Cape Town, Mrs. Mvulane all the way from Vrystaat, and we've got Mr. Bonagele. We're all sitting here. So the body is very well represented. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much to your team that has brought us here to share with us the work that is being done here, to begin to interact with the people who are here. And behind you, thank you very much to the executive team who've really made it all possible in various ways. Baba Sindane, thank you very much to your team in the provincial office for setting up this amazing condition. Asanbingelela nonke bethu bakuthi. Sanbingelela. Man, I want you to wake up, yeah? Okay. You've heard that we had the first Indaba of the National Lotteries Commission last year, November. Since about 7 years before that, it's been a while. I think, is that 7 years? So right, Gladys? 8 years. 8 years. Gladys was counting with her feet and with her toes. So it's 8 years. We felt it was time for us to refresh the National Lotteries Commission, to really begin to give new life to the National Lotteries Commission, and to leave behind us all the scandals and all of the things, and to begin to say that the National Lotteries Commission, after all, is something that we must continue to believe in. It's worth us to believe in it. And so the NLC brought a whole number of people to Eguruleni for 3 days of reflection together. At the time, the intention was in part that we will look at the strategic strategy that we are placing for the next 10 years of the National Lotteries Commission. And 10 years is a very important way to really judge and to guide us how in fact we have been doing, and to try to actualize that which we really do believe in, and to the benefit of the people of our country. Some of it in terms of the priority areas and strategic areas, the Commissioner has already presented to you. So it is a very, very important occasion for us to come to the first of the provincial opportunities since the Indaba was held last November, and to come together with the Commissioner and her team, to come together with a board that is so ably represented today, for us to see for ourselves how the National Lotteries Commission represents itself and is indeed represented in every corner of our country. So we go away with a very warm feeling about the work that we do together that has been entrusted to us by the Parliament of our country, to try to make sure that we provide outlets for the realization of the Bill of Rights and the well-being of our people that is in our Constitution. We try our best, but we can never do it on our own. We need the partnership with the people on the ground who are serving other people who are even in a greater need. So I want to just focus on that for a moment today. I'm looking at his colleagues who are the executives. Yesterday they were wearing beautiful suits and they were wearing techies that are white, and they were looking very, very elegant. And of course, I tell my age, that's not really the way we go along. So I thought, actually, maybe this is a sort of fashion these days, white techies and all of that. And that reminded me of the tagline. The tagline, Molemo, I was also referring to you, by the way. Okay. The tagline of one of the brands of techies, if you like, it says, "Just do it." Do you know that? Just do it. And I thought this was a very important tagline for us to reflect on, because it represents something that I think is very, very important. It takes people who are really sometimes get tired and no energy to exercise and to do the walking that is important for them. It just gives them motivation. It says, carry on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And even when it might look hard and going up a hill and the body just doesn't want to move on, if you have that thing that says, just do it, and you really go up that hill and you feel you can do it. The second thing that it does is that you've got to believe in yourself. This confidence that, you know what, it's possible, it's got to get done, I've got to do it. So this self-belief that drives the motivation that we have again. And for Nike, this idea of just do it was this amazing story that it was telling about their brand and where they have been and where they want to go to. This week, for some reason, I found myself watching the not-so-new president of Botswana, who I find a very inspirational young person. I wish more politicians would be like that. I don't know the name. He is Advocate Boko, Duma Boko. And he was speaking at various events. I don't know what the issue was in Botswana. He says two striking things that were probably shocking to the people. He says, I get tired of civil servants who always find barriers and problems, and they spend their lives analyzing problems and just seeing why it is impossible to get certain things done. He says, I actually am impatient with that because I'm a doer. I want things to get done. And if you are focused on the problems that you have, you'll never get anything done. And so we're saying that we're looking in Botswana for men and women who are just going to get there and do it. And we can talk about strategy and all sorts of things like that, but at the end of the day, we owe it to the people of our country who put us in office to do it. And that's what we do. And if we're overly focused on getting it right all the time, we will not always get it right. What is important, we will never know even that we have not got it right unless and until we actually do it. So it's very inspirational to really begin to talk like this. I warn myself that Nike is not the only brand around, and I'm not paid by Nike to give their tagline today. But there's others, I think, is it Adidas, that talk about other taglines. Something like lately, the latest one is, you got this, you got this. A very short phrase that talks about personal empowerment. It says at the end of the day, you've got to really get it in yourself to do it. You've got to empower yourself in order to empower others. You've got to have that sense of self-belief and enjoyment and this idea of achievement, because you know what it is possible to be achieved if only you do it. By the way, you won't achieve anything if you do nothing, right? If you do nothing, there'll be nothing to achieve. And it says in the Adidas tagline that you've got to have this environment that is supportive, that is human-centered, that understands human nature, that seeks to build a sense of confidence that you have in yourself. So I share those two taglines for you this morning. I share them in order really to say, you know what? We've got a wonderful country. We've got the most beautiful country. You just have to come to Mpumalanga, provincial manager Sindane, to see what a beautiful country we have. It's just that if we all decide to stay in Mpumalanga, you'll have nowhere for us to stay or to live. So you must encourage us to go away and come back. But we didn't just do the motivational talking. We presented, as the commissioner said, we presented the strategic plan for the next 10 years. Strategic plan was very important to present because the way government works, which not being a person from government, I found myself feeling very tired about that. Government is very tiring because you must have these APPs every year which go on and on and on. And somehow you don't really move people beyond their possibilities, to really reach beyond, to really begin to say, how do we actually make this thing work to excellence? And so the way we thought about that, the way we can translate what is intended by the Constitution and by the Act, is to really grab the higher ground towards the developmental state, towards a nation of social cohesion, and indeed a caring society. And then what we're saying about that, you know, at the end of the day, we can't sit to say that we want charity, people will do things for us, we fold our arms and wait for somebody to give to us. In many respects, that is called charity, because until somebody actually sees it for you. You know, there's a story in the Bible where near the pool of Siloam, a guy was sitting there for a long time. He says, Jesus comes there and he says, but why are you sitting there? He says, well, I'm actually waiting for somebody to put me in the pool, then I get healed. And of course, people don't come. Of course, he sits there. And at the end of the day, the pool of Siloam is not going to heal you if you sit next to it and not get inside the pool, right? Right? So the truth then is this, that we've got to set our sights and our sights very high. For too long in this country, we have looked, and the politicians like to make us look to the government as if we ourselves have nothing to offer, right? So we look to our leaders, they're going to do this, and this party is going to do this. And they rather like that, because at the end of the day, we sit down and fold our arms and wait until that government, Mandela, must come and sort this out for us. No, that never works. So we've got to be able to say that we are the ones who are going to build this developmental state. Not a charity state, not a nanny state, but a developmental state that is in fact going to be the mechanism for us to make our society a society that actually uses the resources that we already have in order to build up the communities where we live into a better state than it is. So if you've got issues of unemployment, there's something that can be done about unemployment. And that's what we are there to do. If you have issues with crime and all of that, there's something that can be done about communities providing their own safety and security in their own areas. If there's issues about early childhood education, there are things that can be done about that. If there's something to do about families and femicide and gender-based violence, there's something that can be done about that. So we need to really begin to build this idea of a developmental state, because it begins to happen when we just do it. The second thing we said, that we took a long time. We've been, as South Africans, we've been such a divided society for too long. We were a society that was divided between black and white for very many years. We've been a society that was divided between various tribal groups or ethnic groups. We have not yet quite overcome that. We've been a society that is divided between the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated. So we are urban and rural. We are a very, very divided society. So we want to say that actually the business of existing in a new developmental state is to begin to build each other up, and social cohesion becomes a very important task of nation building. So we can never be a nation that is divided into this and that, into race, into class, into education. We cannot. So social cohesion is an aspiration that we ought to go towards. Finally, our model must be to build a caring society. It is not human to be unmindful of the suffering of another. It's never been like that. That when you see there are children who have no food to eat in your neighborhood, it doesn't occur to you to actually make sure that a plate of food from your house goes to feed those children. I always tell my grandchildren that I come from a township home of ordinary, normal, working class home. And we live in a wattle and dab house in a township. In that home, there were two things that were important in my home. The first one, that after supper, the kitchen must be cleaned, of course done by us, must be cleaned and must be left very clean. And we're always told that, what if a visitor comes in the middle of the night? How can it be that a visitor can come to a place? So our job was to make sure when this visitor comes, oh, by the way, never came. So when this visitor comes, the visitor finds the kitchen right. The second thing, there was always an extra plate of food that was put in the stove because a visitor might come who will have no food to eat. So the local people always looked out for others in the area who really have a need. And they were all the same. They were all poor people, working in the factories or whatever it was. But they had an eye for the needs of the others in the community that they shared together with them. Now we cannot at this time be a society where we don't care for the suffering of others. And there is a lot of that around. So we want to promote this idea of a caring society. That is why we do so much, those generally women, if I may say so, who really put themselves out to do the caring work for preschool children and care for them while the theory is at least, while the mothers go to work. So children are cared for in a safe environment. They have food to eat and they begin the task of learning. So it's so important, so good that the government has now conceptualized early childhood education as the beginning point of real learning, not a place where you just keep children and wait for the mother to come back, where they do real learning. So that's a way of caring. So you can't have children who are not cared for just because their parents are not there. So finally, and I'm going to sit down, I want to say this strategy that we developed is a strategy, is a statement that we believe is there to instill public confidence in the possibilities of communities mutually caring for each other, in the building and development of our developmental state, in assuring everybody that indeed social cohesion is a very, very predominant commitment that we're making to one another in this country. After 30 years, we may have lost a lot of that. We may have lost, not many of you are old enough than I am to remember the hype in 1994 that we greeted 1994 with. We had all kinds of ideas of building a new society and building a quality investment in each other as people and as communities. We believed it 100%. But we lost it, let's be honest. How? I don't know, but we lost it. It has nothing to do with politics, by the way. It got something to do with values. We lost the values. We lost the values of Ubuntu. We lost the values of being human. We lost the values of being caring. We've got the values of being loving. We have lost the values of being African. We lost something that is very important. It occurs to me that an organization like the NLC, if it can at least work to restore a little bit of that which we have lost, then we are putting the building blocks into that new society that we lost along the way. The second thing that I think we say we are doing is the recognition and the acknowledgement that the NLC is a state entity. In other words, we are reflective of what the state, where the taxes and all of the things are being paid, is actually seeking, has an aspiration to build the society in a new and in an important way. So we acknowledge that we exist because the government of the day decided that it was important that a body like the NLC exists. We must honor that. We must make sure that we never let down the state, whoever is the government of the day. The third thing is that we must acknowledge that we cannot ourselves do this work without the partnership of the people who work on the ground, day and night, within the communities and outside the communities. And our job is to use what the resources have been entrusted to us in order to enable those communities of people with a vision and a caring heart and a motivation to look after the needs of their community. Finally, we want to emphasize that we are in the business of promoting the public good. It's a concept that's not talked about these days, the idea of a public good. In other words, to do good, not because you are going to get anything in return, not because you are going to be paid, not because you can enrich yourself, to do the public good for no other reason than that it is a good thing to do. It is a good thing to do, and we emphasize, if the National Lotteries Commission does not emphasize the public good in all that it does, it will be failing dismally in its mission. So we're making a fresh start with you. And after the Indaba, there are a lot of resolutions. Indaba, of course, was not a conference. And so there was no way that we were going to be democratic about that and begin to vote. You vote for everything. It's not a parliament. It was not a parliament. It was not a conference. But it was a means by which we test views and opinions, and we draw from that in order to build this National Lotteries Commission that seeks to serve the people of this country. And what we're doing now, we're going a step further. We are saying that having done what we did at the National Indaba, we're going further to the provinces. We want to draw from them, both for us to get to know what is being done, what is happening on the ground, but also for us to hear from you what are the key issues that you're wrestling with and how we can partner with you to become a winning nation. Thank you.
From the organization called Kukuletu, send Benedict home for the aged to come on stage and have few words. Mrs. Daphne Goga.
The chairperson of the board of the National Lotteries Commission, distinguished members of the board, the commissioner, Ms. Jody Schultz, members of the executive and the NLC family, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. My name is Stephanie Kolga. I am the manager of Guguletu St. Benedict's Home for the Aged in Ilokwatini. It is a profound honor to address this board, whose support has been the cornerstone of our survival and growth. Our story is one of deep roots and enduring faith. Founded in 1984 by Father Charles Kupelwieser, a Comboni missionary from Germany, our home was faithfully managed by the St. Benedict sisters until 2009, when the sisters could no longer continue due to age and the community's declining number. The laity of the Catholic Church was approached to carry this mission forward. Today, we are proud to continue that legacy, providing care for residents aged 60 years and above, who are varying in physical and mental phases of aging. We currently house 71 residents with a total capacity to care for 79. As many of you know, staying afloat is a constant challenge. Our residents are SASSA recipients, and their grants alone cannot cover the rising costs of specialized care. This is why the support of National Lotteries Commission has been a lifeline for us. Most recently, your generous grant of 2.3 million allowed us to install a comprehensive solar energy system. This massive step towards independence is already yielding incredible results, saving the home between 240,000 Rand and 350,000 Rand annually. These savings are now being redirected where they are needed most: the essential maintenance and upkeep of our facility. This is not the first time the NLC has stood by us. Past funding has provided vehicles for transport, the construction of Flat 9, which houses 22 frail male recipients or residents, and the purchase of medical beds for our frail care unit, which serves 28 women. These improvements have directly increased our capacity to provide dignity to those who need it most. However, our work is not finished. We are now looking toward a new expansion, a dedicated ward for mentally ill residents. As we all know, mental health has become a growing concern across all age groups, not just the elderly. This rising crisis means that more families are looking to us for specialized care that balances safety with compassion, a need we are currently striving to meet. On behalf of the residents and staff of Gugulethu St. Benedict's, I wish to express our deepest gratitude to the board for your visionary leadership. Your investment is not in a building, but in the heart of the Ilokwatini community, ensuring that our most needy and vulnerable elders are never forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Indeed, we are changing life. We are creating a better life for all. I-NLC ikwazile ukwenza ukuthi ogogo nabomkhulu bahleli kahle, bathola ukudla okukahle ngomsebenzi we-NLC obonakalayo. Now I will have the next presenter from Arts and Culture sector, from the Forgotten Eagles Theatre Collaborative. Our presenter will be Mr. PJ Sabakta. May I request that we flight the presentation?
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much, everybody, for the opportunity to share a little bit about our work. It's a great honor to be here. I think, like most of us in the room, the NLC is a lifeline, and so we celebrate that and are deeply appreciative for what you enable us to do on the ground. My name is PJ Sabakta. I'm representing the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative. Next slide, please. The Forgotten Angle runs a range of programs that range from working with children as young as 3 and 5, all the way to national, international arts programs, and delivering services for national and provincial Department of Sports, Arts and Culture for the Community Arts Development Program. Next slide, please. In order to understand our impact, and I want to speak a little bit about the impact of our programs, I thought it was important to share with you our theory of change. So, as an organization, we identify that the core problem we are trying to address is the issue that decades into democracy, systemic inequalities prevent many South Africans from living to their full potential. And so we see the work that we need to do as arriving at that full potential, as moving people towards the full potential, and in order to shift those systemic inequalities. Next slide, please. And we hold these statements close to our heart. We work to ignite individual purpose for collective value. We believe that when we help one, we help all, and we work for change, and change for good. Next slide, please. And at the heart of everything, this is our kind of core statement around transformation, is we believe that people build communities, communities build societies, and societies build economies. So we are thinking about the journey from the individual human being to economic transformation. Next slide, please. So one of the programs that lies at the heart of our work in Emakazeni, which is a rural community about 150 kilometers from here, and I was late because I was stuck in the mud, is a program we call our Local Education in Arts program, LEAP. It's primarily a dance-focused program. We work in three to four communities across Emakazeni, in school and after school. And depending on how fat we are, and by fat I mean our budgets, how plump we are that year, that affects our beneficiary range. So we, in a lean year, can reach 600 children a month, and in a fat year can be reaching up to 2,000 children a month. Next slide, please. And the kinds of shifts and behavioral changes we are observing through our M&E processes are observing changes in confidence, changes in the ability for young people to build respect and understanding, the ability for young people to engage in conversation, dialogue, so really nurturing 21st century skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking. Next slide, please. From the parents' perspective, we are seeing, and it's always important for us as artists to communicate the hard truth around what we do, that it can transform what happens in schools. It can transform how young people perform at school. It can transform home relationships. It can transform a sense of purpose. Next slide, please. And of course, we all know this statement, and I think this is familiar to all of us, that the arts programs keep young people out of the ills that are unfolding in our communities. Next slide, please. In school programs, we are seeing educators acknowledge that children are becoming more creative, they are expressing themselves, they are building confidence, and facilitators become important role models, and we need role models, valuable role models in our society for young people. Next slide, please. Other programs funded by the lotteries are our youth development programs, and we have several. We have a Community Builders Applied Arts Training Program, Youth Arts Leadership or High Impact Leadership Program, and internships. Next slide, please. These programs are in direct response to the knowledge that on the ground in rural communities, we have very low levels of grade 12 completion. And so we have sought and acquired CATH-CETA accreditation. We also all know that the CETA accreditation process is in shift, and so we're all in a bit of limbo at the moment. Nonetheless, we are working to through the programs, build education pathways for young people so that we can disrupt the cycles of poverty and failed education within our system. Next slide, please. So our Community Builders Applied Arts Training Program is a 12-month training program for unemployed youth. They do not necessarily have to have a grade 12. And what we are observing through the program is approximately 80% absorption rate. That means 80% of young people who are graduating from the program are entering the creative economy or other economies in some way. Next slide, please. Our internships, and these are very valuable processes in youth education, provide first-time job opportunities. So when somebody is entering the job market, they have something on their CVs. They have a point of reference. Somebody has a reference letter, someone to phone, someone to call. Yes, this person's had a job. And these are being very valuable across our programs in arts, agriculture, and administration. Next slide, please. And then our entrepreneurship leadership programs are equipping young people with the skills, the vision, the ability to initiate meaningful programs within their respective communities, becoming arts entrepreneurs, becoming social entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. I've spoken to this slide. I just like the picture of the mountains and the sense of vision and purpose. Next slide, please. And this is really important, that the programs are not just about skill, but it's about transforming perspective, shifting perspective, and creating purpose. Next slide, please. One of the big projects we run that is largely funding dependent is a free public arts festival called My Body, My Space. We've just finished it last week, so we are all a bit shattered. Next slide, please. It's a large-scale national, local, national, and international festival that unfolds in public spaces across eMakazeni, so it's free access. Next slide, please. Over the last 11 years of the festival, we have created opportunities for 1,500 plus artists from local, national, international, as well as vendors, crafters. We have supported in excess of 1,000 jobs, short-term jobs, not full-time jobs, short-term jobs during the course of the festival. Our education programs reach 2,000 children during the course of the week, and we attract audiences in excess of 800 people a day. Next slide, please. What we really focus on is democracy and equality. So we don't have the people on one side of the one side of the festival and the VIPs on the other side of the festival. We want to build a system where everybody is dealt with equally, everybody has same access to opportunities, same access to food, same sorts of food, same resources. Next slide, please. So we are working at developing rural audiences, local tourism, and creating access to markets for local artists to collaborate also with artists from around the globe. Next. And critical to the festival and this commitment to democracy and disrupting boundaries in which people operate is social cohesion and nation building. Go back one slide, sorry, thank you. So this is a kind of core statement for the festival, is around social cohesion and nation building. And then of course the economic contribution that this little festival, it's not a big festival, it's a small festival, but has made in excess of 8 million rand contribution to the local economy over the last 11 years. It may not sound like a lot, but for small businesses, it's a lot of money. Next slide, please. And then coming out of COVID and with the support of Lottery, we were able to initiate a food security program. When we began to really see the impacts of COVID on the food security of the families that we were serving through the arts, it's impossible to serve art which is self-actualization, the top end of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we're not taking care of basic needs. And so we have initiated food security programs, we have organic gardens on our site, we train young people, we provide employment for young people through organic gardening. Next slide, please. And we have developed a network in our immediate town, of 94 households that we know are food insecure. Translates to about 500 people that we support regularly through food we grow in our gardens. And we have also initiated a series of small gardens in communities to train people to run their own gardens. Next slide. And I'm going to end with a final statement, which is an invitation. That's our tagline. From forgotten spaces comes greatness. It's an invitation that no matter what we are living with or dealing with or where we are, that we pursue, that we are persistent, that we are resilient, and that we can generate greatness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, PJ. As an NLC, we are honored to be funding this kind of organization. Inhlangano ezenza isiqiniseko sokuthi abantwana abekho estratini, abantwana abadli idakamizwa. I-shape indlela umntwana akhuluma ngayo nomzali. It shapes the way umntwana enza izinto zesikole. We are very proud as an NLC to have funded such project. I will now call upon Mr. Kaiser Sibanyoni from SAFA Enhlanzeni to give us a presentation. May I request to fly the presentation?
Good morning, all of us. Thank you, Program Director. Protocol observed. My name is Kaiser Sibanyoni. I'm the chairperson of South African Football Association, Hlanzeni region. Next slide. In my introduction, SAFA Hlanzeni is responsible for grassroots football development. What is key, we're covering the area of 3 local municipalities, that's Mbombela, Tabacheu, Bushbuckridge, Umchindi, and Nkomazi. Our role is to take out vulnerable children out of the street. Go to the next page. The below is the statistics of people that were covering. The first, we've got plus 952 teams. We've got players which are 28,000. We've got referees which are 750. We've got coaches which are 700. and we've got administrators which are 1,900. In total, we're touching the lives of 32,000 people. This is excluding supporters. In terms of supporters, per year, our children are watched by 1.4 million spectators every year, which will play for a duration of 8 months. Next slide. I've mentioned that with the funding that we have received from lottery, we have managed to touch life of 32,000. The next slide. The achievement through NLC funding, we're able to do capacity building in terms of coaches, capacity building in terms of referees through workshops and training, capacity building in terms of administration. We also do capacity building in terms of playing tournaments. Next slide. These slides depict the training that was done through coaches. In all our 5 areas for the past 1 year, we have covered these courses 2 times per LFE. That means we've made 10 in terms, those are the people, registers, and everything that we've capacitated. Next slide. The next slide depicts the referees that we've also trained. This one which is appearing was in Bushbuckridge, but also we've covered all the areas. Hopefully we've also done more than 8 capacity building in terms of referees training. The referees, if you look, is not men only. We also covered women. Women are part of referees, which are part of this. The next slide. The next slide is similar to this one, which was in Komazi, but it covers everything. The next slide. This one is covering capacity building in terms of administrators. This also was done through lottery funding. Here we're training the administrators of the teams in terms of how to administer. Also, the LFA have got conveners, how to write a fixture, how to write a log, and everything. Those are courses that we do. The next slide. This slide covers a festival or a tournament. Here we're at Bombela Stadium, where we're using 4 fields in 1 day. Here, the teams that were playing were under 11, under 13, and under 15. Here they are celebrating after the 2 teams have won the trophies. This was a day after they played for 4 months. This was the festival for 1 day. In that festival, remember, our children, when you look at different sporting codes, football is the one who's most underfunded. If I can tell you, a football player, a child, in terms of sponsored, is sponsored by R6.50 per annum. R6.50 per annum. Let's compare. You go to a rugby player. A rugby player is sponsored by 37,000 per player per year. A cricket player is sponsored by 41,000 per player per year. But in terms of football, it's R6.50 per player. Why is this component? Football is played in South Africa by 10 million people. The other sporting all combined, 36 of them, they don't even make half of what players are playing. You go in every village, football is played in the street, whatever. but the funding is too little. Thank you, VAT, for NLC for trying to cover these children. The next slide. The next slide, we're handing over equipments to teams. Some of them are not here. Soccer jerseys for both teams of girls and boys. The young one, we've given them plus minus 50 kids to the whole region. They appreciate because some of them, I will make one example. There was a tournament here at Valencia. One team under 13 was coming from Bozini. All of them, the teams were in town, they were wearing nice kit. Those kids come with a Toyota buggy, no canopy, nothing, very old. But they drove 150 kilometers to come here in Nelspruit. They were not having soccer kits. They were not having soccer boots. But when I watched these kids, I said to the team manager, on Monday, come to my office, we'll give you soccer boots and kits. They were very much happy. There are a lot of them. In conclusion, eThekwini, we have promoted the following teams. Kamtusha Real Madrid from Komazi to ABC Mutsipa Zebras from Chabacheu to the next level, Tankisan from Bombela to the next level, Akon Bush United from Bush Bakrish also to the next level. The next slide, we have promoted the Bees now from ABC Mutsipa, now is in PSL First Division. There are players that were promoted. Letlaba from Bushbuckridge was from the Bees, now is playing for PSL team Polokwane. We've also, he has been now selected for Bafana Bafana that will play next week in Cape Town, is from our area. Then we have got girls that we also promoted from our own ranks. Was Mavis Maichane from Komazi, Naledi Nkosi from Babaton, Refilwe from Bombela. These little girls, they were playing to under 20 national team. Last month, they started to play with Swaziland here, Eswatini, which they were part of the team. Last month, the 3 players were part of the team playing with Ghana for the World Cup qualifiers from our own region. We have 2 young boys that come from our areas under 17. One is Snamanda Ngwenya. It's from Gapoweni. This player, and the one is a goalkeeper, which is Melusi Matebula. They've joined Czechs Galaxy in the past 3 months. A good story to tell. Siphamanda Ngwenya scored the winning goal of Nedbank when Sundown was knocked out at Matuba. It's our player. With these words, thank you very much for the short presentation.
Siyabonga kakhulu Baba Sibanyoni. Sibonga ngomsebenzi wenzayo we-grassroots development. Nokhipha abantwana emgwaqweni nisibhekelele bona, siyabonga kakhulu. There will be some slight change in the program. We will move the tea break to a breakaway session when we go to commission. I will now like to call upon on stage the NLC ICT Program Manager, Mr. Andrei Kritzinga, to provide us with an update on the application programming and interface. Thank you.
morning, everybody. We all good? Thank you for making time and taking the trouble to come and listen to us this morning. It's indeed an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to you. You know, these presentations always start with all protocols observed, so I'd like to start with that too. Unfortunately, our chair isn't present at the moment. But before I go into the detail of my presentation, I just want to tell you about an experience I had yesterday. I had the opportunity and the privilege and honor of being able to travel to the St. Benedict's, the Gugulethu St. Benedict's Home for the Aged. And I found it a truly wonderful and humbling experience. You know, people like that do an amazing amount with very, very little resources. But what struck me about that visit yesterday was the pride and the passion with which people engaged their vocation, if I can call it that. They're truly committed and passionate about what they do. And it was interesting to see just how much care and trouble they took to make the place look neat, tidy. And it was indicative of a huge amount of pride that went into that place. And it was truly humbling and an honor to be able to be there. And I just wish that some of us could apply the same kind of pride and passion into the work that we do. I was chatting to Advocate Boyhang, our legal services head, yesterday on our way back home, and it was very, very profound, not just for me, but for him as well. And I think the entire team, NLC team, that had the honor and privilege of going to visit them there. So I think what sort of pervades the approach to the presentation that I want to give you on the system, because the reality of our lives is that we need to comply with certain requirements in terms of governance and so on. How do we apply the money? How do we use the money? Are we being measured in terms of what we do? So one of the difficult jobs that I have to do is that I have to apply these compliance requirements into the interface that deals with all you people. And I just want to reassure you that one of the things that we focus on is trying to make it as easy as possible for all of you to get access into our system to lodge your grant applications and so on. So in November last year, we had our first Indaba for a while, as the Prof mentioned earlier. And we had a discussion, we had some open sessions there. And the theme at that Indaba for us was creating digital access for people to be able to get into the system and do what they had to do. And we're now moving to a new phase, which is to ensure that you've got compliant, trusted, and grant delivery. So the focus is on ensuring that we get in compliant progression from application to payment. Now, we've had some challenges with that, and I'm going to deal with that in the course of our presentation. I've got to press this button to move my presentation along. Wait, was I a little quick there? These things are very sensitive. Sorry, I'm going to just go back one. Then versus now. So in November, and what we had experienced up until then was a lot of systems instability and integration failures with other organizations that we deal with. So for example, if we verify identity numbers, we go to Home Affairs. If we verify tax compliance, we go to SARS, and so on and so on and so on. And what we found there, that there was a lot of digital exclusion. In other words, people couldn't get into the system, couldn't get hold of it, or weren't able to access it depending on where they lived. So what happened as a result of that is we had backlogs in our applications and a lot of failed submissions. In other words, the things didn't go through and people were having problems becoming compliant. Moving through to March this year, where we've got an upgraded free-to-air access for grant applicants. It doesn't affect that people that much at the moment because a new call hasn't been issued yet. But and I speak about the MTN multi-network, what we had at that time was the Vodacom service provider who was specific just to Vodacom. So it gave people difficulty in terms of accessing our environment from remote and far-flung sites. mean, yesterday, as I said, we went to the St. Benedict's home. It is far from here. And there's not 5G and 4G coverage there. So in other words, people can't just access stuff. So we've got to make sure that we can give people the access to 3, 4, and 5G so that they can access the system from there. And what MTN does is it's a multi-service provider network. So if you're on MTN or Vodacom or Cell C or whatever it is, you can get access to our system now using the free-to-air, and that enables you to get from Module 1 all the way up to Module 3. You've got to pay a little bit of money in the beginning just to get in, but then once you're in, then you're good to go. What we've also improved on significantly is our system stability. People said the system was difficult to access, it wasn't responding properly. And one of the big things that came out at our Indaba last year was the fact that people were struggling to get compliance with their non-profit organizations at the Department of Social Development. And we're happy to say that we've had a lot of interaction with DSD since November last year, and we've worked with them tirelessly to try and improve the way that that system works. And I'm happy to say that we launched the POC of their new system 2 weeks ago. It's still in a POC stage, but what it'll enable you to do is to get better systems access and improve your compliance access and capability within DSD itself. Just as a matter of interest, to give you an idea of how people comply, it's not that great, right? Of almost 17,000 applicants, in the region of about 3,000 or 3,500 are compliant with CIPC, DSD, and SARS. The least compliant is SARS. We only have about 1,500 to 1,600 SARS compliant grantees. And that's fundamental, guys. Unless you get that compliance, it's a problem. We can't pay. We can't give you the money that you're looking for. So access, so the backlogs and failed submissions was the past. We've now improved access significantly, and I think you'll see a big improvement in DSD in the coming months. So the key shift now is not just from getting into the system and using it. The problem is now about compliance, making sure that your stuff is compliant, because it's our reality. People, we have to live with it. It's just one of those unfortunate occupational hazards that we have to deal with. And as I said, this visit yesterday was quite humbling. So what we're trying to do from a systems point of view is make it as easy as possible for you to get in there. So if we take a quick look at the compliance system, right, let me just press this button again. There, right? NPOs that are not DSD compliant will not be able to have their grants approved for payment. CIPC, that relates to non-profit companies. That is less of a problem because CIPC is very progressive and stringent about their compliance requirements. The biggest problem we've experienced, and that's very few and far between at CIPC, is people who are in the process of being deregistered as an NPC because they haven't paid their annual returns or whatever the case may be. Please make sure that you're compliant with CIPC because it flags you as a non-compliant or a potentially non-compliant NPC, and it won't let you through the gate. As I mentioned, SARS compliance is abysmal if you look at it in relation percentage-wise to the total number of applications we got, 17,000 through modules 1 and 2, to 15 or 1,600 odd SARS compliant people. The other thing that we look at is banks. We look at the account verification. In other words, we want to be sure where the money goes. And we have various systems and software that we in place where we can actually track where the money actually ends up. So we can go down 5, 10, 15 layers to see exactly where this money ends up, into whose pocket it ends up. So you need to make sure that your banking information is spot on. Then there's an organization called the South African Fraud Prevention System. And what this does is it looks at 4 different categories of applicant, right? The first is that you get people who are naughty. We call them the delinquent or the non-compliant directors for interested parties. You get what we call protected individuals. So for example, that's people like, just anecdotally, Bill Gates, right? right? So people can't just get access to their information easily. You know, their contact information and their ID number and their passport numbers. People like that don't want their stuff out in the public domain, and obviously we have to protect individuals like that. Then you've got people who are victims of a fraud scam or identity theft. It also flags that. So if you're aware of that, make sure that you, if you're a director or a member of an organization, that you get that cleared with SAFPS, right? And understand clearly that failure in any one of these dimensions means no adjudication and no payment, right? And most delays that we've experienced in our system are caused by compliance mismatches. Of late, and I'll talk through the top 5 the causes of why things get delays now, is the main contact and the authorized signatory have to be one and the same person. So what we found is certain applications, the main contact person was the administrator of the application, the grant application. Then what happens is our system thinks that's the authorized signatory, and it generates the grant agreement that needs to be signed by the organization, which is a legal document, and it sends it to the admin person instead of the authorized signatory. So we've got to work around that, because in many cases people have got that right, because we have processed and paid many grants, right? So some people can get it right. To going back and changing your main contact details. You're able to do that now quite simply, okay? So it can be done. So you can change those main contact information from the administrator to the thing. What we're looking at in cycle 2 to make it a little bit easier for you is to have 2 roles. So you'll have the main contact person, i.e. the authorized signatory, and then we're going to create a second role, which is the administrator of the application, because some of these people don't always want to do all the admin around uploading all the documents and the annexures and all the stuff that goes with the applications into the system. So we have a 2-pronged approach there. The other thing that we've experienced of late is, as things go through this and we find that there's some directors that are not compliant or whatever the case may be, suddenly organizations want to change their directors and also want to change their bank accounts, just in what we call Module 5, which is our payment module, right? Now that, of course, raises red flags for us, because we know what's happened with the money in the past. It's been going to the wrong bank accounts, okay? So when somebody's progressed the whole application all the way through to the payment stage, why do you suddenly want to change your bank account? There may be issues, and there may be legitimate issues. But understand, when you do that kind of change, it raises red flags with us, and we go through a lot of extra checks to check exactly why these bank account details are being changed. Now, for my sins, in a previous life, I worked at the CIPC, and what we had there once was a 42 million rand VAT fraud, which related to somebody working in collusion, it's generally in collusion, with somebody at SARS and an internal person at CIPC, and the directors of the company, where they changed the directors, changed the bank account signatories, changed the bank accounts, and deposited the money from SARS into that fraudulent bank account. And that was it, money gone. So we take care and steps to make sure that we try and obviate those kind of problems, right? The other thing is the incorrect, the fourth issue generally that we found, and we've got a lot of experience in this now, is incorrect grant and agreement signing or missing annexures. We get certain grant agreements that say, oh, they stuck in the system. And that may be because it's been signed in the incorrect sequence, or they haven't signed all the annexures that link to the grant, because many grant agreements do go through and are 100% fine and do get paid. And then the last thing, of course, as I mentioned in my presentation, was the SAFPS, the SA Fraud Prevention and Identity Verification Flag. Sorry, there was a 5th category that I didn't mention there, and that's politically connected individuals. We're informed of those connections. So if you're politically very connected, we'll know about it. Okay, so these issues that I've just spoken about result in delays, rework, or ultimate rejection of the grant. And it's a bit of a pain in the rear for you to, as a grantee, to experience these things. And again, I related to my visit, and Stephanie did a wonderful presentation on St. Benedict's this morning. Our focus is to try and help people as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible in the system. So we've given these tips. Obviously, there's no chance for questions now in this presentation. But for my sins, I'm presiding over Commission 3 a bit later on. And if you have any questions around the systems, you're welcome to come and ask us, come and visit us there, and then hopefully we'll be able to answer. So, what must you do? You must ensure DSD CIPC SARS compliance is valid. Confirm the directors and the bank details. Align the main contact with the authorized signatory. During the process, try not to change your directors or bank details. It creates problems for you and for us because it's a logistic nightmare for us. Follow the signing sequence correctly and ensure all annexures are complete. Those are the 3 biggest holdups in our grants. Our commitments are to expand our support to us, and I've been talking to my friend and colleague there, Mr. Chigimani. And our outreach programs will obviously be expanded and extended to help you. But people, speak to your provincial managers. They'll be able to provide you tips and advice as to how to get through these systems easily. If you're in doubt, ask them, phone them. That's what the provincial infrastructures are there for. Our commitment is to expand our support, as I said, and then, of course, systems enhancements. We've taken very seriously the feedback that we've got from you from the previous Indaba and so on. We obviously had a contract with the service provider to deliver the system that we've got now. It's always difficult when you implement new things. I can speak from experience when we did SARS e-filing and when we did the CIPC system. So just bear with us. It's getting better and better each day as we go along. So the outcome, and my closing message to all of you is, if we get this right, we're going to get faster adjudication and payments, reduce backlogs. We're going to improve transparency and trust, and we're going to stop fraud in its tracks. We're going to get stronger fraud prevention. And in closing, the system is now accessible. The success depends on applications being complete, compliant, and verifiable. So the call to action from my side is compliance first, then submission, then success. If we get the compliance steps first right, we will win. I was talking to Prof. Barney on the way up here in the plane, and we were talking about compliance, and I was saying, perhaps we should be a little bit more lenient on compliance. And he says, the fact of the matter is we live with a partner in crime called the Auditor General of South Africa. And he loves to come and look at what you're doing. And compliance is just not negotiable, people. Compliance is not negotiable. So let's make the best of it. We will do our damnedest, and our commitment, and I know I speak for our board and our commissioner, to make it as easy and as convenient as possible. You don't always get it right first because it's easier to foresee the automobile and the traffic jam, right? It's easier to visualize a car, but you don't foresee the traffic jam. So it's easier to visualize the system as we developed it, and then we see, oh, people use it like this, and people want to do this. So just bear with us. It's a bit like widening the N1 from 1 lane to 6. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing those of you who'd like to come and ask us more about the systems in, I think it's Commission 3. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Berin Figasen. Indeed, thank you. Because of delegates that are traveling 3 hours from here to their place of residence, we have reshuffled the program a little bit to accommodate them. We will now move to commissions. After commissions, we'll have feedback from the commissions where we'll be taking in question and answers. Then after that, we'll have a vote of thanks. Then we'll have lunch and depart. So,
And the provision from the National Lotteries Act mandates the board to ensure that the NLC complies with all applicable and relevant legislation, including this one. And furthermore, in the same act, there is a clause or section 2A5, which also mandates the NLC to call a meeting of this nature to make sure that all of you are educated, are explained to of the process requirements and qualifications relating to applications for grants. So what we're doing is not far-fetched. We are basically on the path of compliance. And before we ensure and strengthen, instill and enable you to comply, we first had to look at ourselves and ask ourselves a question: are we compliant as the NLC? So we are on a journey of compliance. We have put a lot of governance processes in place, and that's the reason why we are here with this provincial Indaba. And a lot came out from my commission over and above what I've just presented to you. And I tossed the ball back into the NPOs that attended my session that it starts with them to comply, and that compliance is not negotiable. And therefore, from my commission, the following came out: that for NPOs to comply and for us to assist them as the NLC, we must make sure that we try to invoke and or resuscitate our relationship with DSD. At national level, we must make sure that we have provincial engagement between NLC and relevant stakeholders, which we have MOAs and MOUs with. And everything at that level, if it fails, then it can be escalated to national level. Another one was to make sure that we assist and capacitate directors and members of NPOs, NGOs, and NPCs for them to be compliant, not only with NLC requirements, but with other requirements that they need to comply with. Also, to ensure that we raise any non-compliance with them so that they get their houses in order. They've raised several issues, and the alibi was DSD. DSD that, DSD this, but we were fortunate in our midst to have a provincial manager of Department of Social Development who responded adequately that it's a two-way process. They should ensure that they comply, submit whatever is necessary before they expect DSD to do anything. And they are happy as DSD that the NLC is insisting that they be compliant before your applications are approved for grant funding. So we were in agreement in our commission that indeed it's a two-way process. We also need to comply as the NLC, and you also must comply for your grant funding applications to be granted. Now, the question that was posed or asked to my team was, how can the NLC strengthen governance or assist NPOs and NGOs and NPCs to be compliant? And the following came out was, the first one relates to the provision I've just cited, section 2, capital A5, which speaks about capacity building within the management of the NPC. And it should be capacity building which makes an impact, not capacity building to tick the box to achieve our compliance level. Our portal, being our application portal, must be user-friendly. So that's another request and proposition made. And the NLC must ensure that NPOs appoint auditors and/or accountants to assist them to compile financial statements or audited financial statements. It is apparently common cause that most of our NPOs and NGOs do not know even the process of appointing such specialist services. So it's for the NLC to capacitate them and, if possible, enable them in the appointments of such service providers. The NLC also is requested to conduct periodical workshops for NPOs. We shouldn't do what we're doing today and leave, tick the box to have done it and celebrate. We should do it frequently. If the national office of the NLC cannot do it, it must be left to the discretion of the provincial offices. There should be provincial indabas, there should be even local municipality indabas. Because as we know that Mpumalanga is a rural province, most areas are far-flung, and therefore it is a serious challenge for others to travel 3 hours or more than 300 kilometers. Instead, we must be accessible to them, do these indabas at local level. So it must be in the operational plans of the provincial offices. There must be regular training on basic bookkeeping and systems. It ties back to the type of capacity building that we need to do, that it should be impactful. We are saying we fund, what are we saying? The NLC Fund for Impact. And I'm saying we should also capacitate to make an impact. We must also ensure that the DSD, as the main and critical stakeholder, must at all times be a part of these NLC events. And not only DSD, others were raised like your SARS, your CIPC, and those that we do APIs with, so that they come under one roof and then we speak the same language. In case NPOs have problems, they know who to engage, like what happened today when a provincial manager of DSD had to attend to some of the questions that were posed to me. And for the NLC to make sure that they invoke the provisions of the MOU and that there should be communication, constant communication. MOU, MOA, I'm looking at you, Ms. Peche. I know we've drafted several MOUs, MOAs. We need to start living those MOUs, engage with those particular departments, discuss issues that are being experienced by our NPOs and NGOs. For the NPO to be compliant with DSD, we must, as the NLC, indicate the shortfalls in their applications timelessly. We should not lead them on or raise any expectation and then at the ultimate end we reject them. So there should be communication, and it talks to the administrative decision that we take as the NLC. We are mandated by law that for every decision that we make and every decision that we take, we need to communicate in writing to the applicants and also to provide reasons why we have rejected their applications. It's a legal requirement. It's not negotiable. I've been doing training throughout the provinces about promotion of Administrative Justice Act. It calls for us as the NLC to make sure that we communicate so that our NPOs can make sure that they improve their compliance as well as their governance processes. And the response was provided, as I said, by the Executive Provincial Manager of DSD. I would not delve into that one for the sake of time. And there were certain questions that were posed that in as much as we, as the NLC, want to decentralize the issue of the MOUs, it should go down to local government, as I said. There was an issue raised about translation of all our documents into various official languages. In terms of the Constitution, in terms of the Use of Official Languages Act of 2012, in terms of the NLC language policy. And I gave assurance that the process has been started. We have translated our grant agreement into 12 different official languages. And the 12th one being Braille. So it's in Braille language. We have translated our Promotion of Access to Information manual into 12 different official languages. We will embark in the process of translating brochures which simplify grant funding process in different languages. A concern was raised that our NGOs, some of them don't even know our grant application process, which now seems to be the basic problem that we are faced with. For them to comply, they need to know those basics. Some questions were posed, but due to time, I could not attend to them, but I know my fellow commissioners will attend to those questions because they directly relate to them. The first one relates to the application by NGOs that has a footprint nationwide. And then they lodge an application from Mpumalanga. Apparently the system rejects them to even apply for other provinces. So I guess my learned colleague on my right will attend to that. The other one relates to budget depletion, that there seems to be a trend in the NLC where we lead them on to say, we've received your application, we realize that you are compliant, we are taking you to the next stage, and when they are expecting that approval should be coming, then they are told that budget has been depleted. It's demoralizing, and they need an explanation as to why is it the case. The other one relates to training. I spoke about it. The other question, which is going to require my colleagues to attend to, it's the grant funding process, briefly at high level. Who qualifies to be approved and who qualifies to be rejected? An example was that the NPO has been applying for many years, being rejected. And then another one which was established recently has been approved. And then the question was, what criteria is being used? And I think the answer pointedly is that once you qualify, your governance processes are in place, you comply with all mandatory requirements, then we will approve you, regardless of you've been existing for 100 years, vis-a-vis those that have been existing for a year. So that is very much important. Another issue that was raised is the issue of bank accounts by NPOs. It is apparent that the NLC insists that NPOs must open different bank accounts or a separate bank accounts for the NPOs and NGOs to manage monies allocated by the NLC. And therefore, in certain instances, not in all, they are not allowed to open more than one bank account. So the question is, can't the NLC be flexible and allow them to use one single bank account? The portal glitches. Apparently, it's not user-friendly. People apply, they would log in, and maybe after a while, they try to log in, it rejects them, and then they struggle. So there is that struggle in terms of accessing the portal, that the Kritsenga. The question on APIs, we addressed that one as to how do APIs work. And lastly, it was a question on annual financial statements vis-a-vis financial statements. For a NPO that has been allocated monies less than 500,000, are they expected to submit annual financial statements, or are they expected to submit only financial statements and the bank statement? So that's a summary in a nutshell of what came out of my commission. The details are in what has been documented by my secretariat. I want to thank them wherever they are. And then I guess this information is not only for the NLC, but would be beneficial to the NPOs. But at the end, Chairperson, Program Director, we have attended to the instruction given to me, and we have talked about the strengthening of governance processes within NGOs and NPOs. We have agreed in concert that it is the responsibility of all of us to be compliant. I thank you all.
Thank you, Advocate. That was clear, straightforward. And allow me to call in the next speaker who will present the feedback on priority areas. May I also request that you address the question that we raised, which are grant funding related, be the issue of a budget depletion, be the issue of a small grant. What are they supposed to submit when they close the report? Is it financial statement or is it annual financial statement? And the issue of projects that are national projects, when they want to apply, the system kicks them out. Thank you. I will allow the Acting Chief Operation Officer, Mzwari Longubane, to provide the feedback on the Commission.
Good day. Ngizoti all protocol observed, because in Maning, so understand that. Thanks, Sindane, for giving me the opportunity. Although the questions I did not have a pen to capture as Advocate was talking, but I'll try to memorize them and then address them. Will that be fine? If I miss anything, then we'll go back to it. But I'm here to give feedback on a Commission 2. And we were requested to look at and hear. I think the best thing is to say, to hear what the applicants, the grantees are saying. It's say, NLC, these are the things that you should be funding, where you should be funding. We started the Commission by being very clear, by saying we are requesting those that were part of the Commission to ask village questions. By that, I meant questions that relate to the needs of their villages, rather than being specific to what you need as an organization. Because what we are trying to achieve here is to actually address our critical focus areas for Mpumalanga. And as an ECD, we said, you know a club, you know a home-based care in your village that is struggling, that might need help, but might not have a voice here. And hence, the statement to say we were seeking for village questions. We were seeking for organizations that were in our commission to talk to what we called, or what we hope to achieve as an organization, a community-driven funding, where our funding is directed very specific to what are the needs in our communities, rather than, I think Jody would have mentioned it, being generic and then we fund one programs nationally. So that was basically where we come from. That's where we come from as this commission. So one of the things that also came out was the issue of consultation. And I did mention that we are here, we are consulting with yourselves so that we get to understand what are the needs in communities. But there's also a strong view on saying we have got traditional leadership, traditional councils in our province, which is very strong, it's rural, and the traditional authority plays a very critical role. So they also understand what are the needs on the ground, and they can be able to assist us in crafting the focus areas going forward, and also to consult also other various stakeholders in crafting the call for application. But then we moved then from there to speak to the sectors that we have, to say what is it then within the charities, the sports, and also within arts, culture, and heritage are the issues that the applicants that are here are saying are critical in their communities. And one of the things that came out very strongly, good people and everyone here, is the infrastructural development. We have situations where our NPOs, when it comes to the structures, the infrastructure, they are struggling. That also causes issues of them not meeting the norms and standards. So the request from the NPOs, and I think to us as ESCO, it speaks to the call that we just had right now, where we excluded the infrastructural projects. Yet our communities, our NPOs are saying that is critical because the kids, the people living with disabilities, the old people, they need to be housed in these facilities and they need to meet the norms and standards. So that becomes very critical. The other issue that also came out is the entrepreneurial development and the social enterprise. To say in our funding programs, let's not be stingy and exclude that, because it speaks to youth employment. It speaks to employment opportunities for our people. So issues of entrepreneurial development, we had one of the delegates that raised a very basic thing when it comes to skills development, is having bakeries, training the youth on baking, on sewing, on plumbing, all those things. It extend our focus areas to say we can actually be intentional so that we are able to address the national crisis that we are all facing, which is the youth unemployment and the skills gap. So that is one of the things that came out. The issue of food security also came out. That is very critical. And then key, and this is linked also to sports and also art and culture, is that we tend to other sectors when we speak of provision of transport. We give money for transport. But in cases of sports and also the art and culture, we are not buying, vehicles. So that these clubs and these organizations can actually own these vehicles and they can be able to transport the beneficiaries to those areas. So again, is the issue of transportation. The other issue that was also brought up, living in an age of AI, of digital technology, etc., is the intentional funding by the NLC on digital hubs in rural communities, so that communities and the people do not move from rural areas to towns to actually access or to be trained on digital skills. These needs to be there in the rural communities so that those communities can actually be assisted. But all of this is also accompanied by the training, the support of those that will be providing those services to the communities. So it's not only the infrastructure, it's not only the provision and establishment of digital hubs, but also training and providing training. And key to that also was that the training must also be accredited, which is very key. So all training programs that we might be having, whether it's baking, it's plumbing, digital skills, and all those things, it must be accredited to assist those organizations so that the people, the beneficiaries that get that kind of funding, they are able to go out of that particular program and have access to employment. We create employment opportunities. Again, it's being intentional on what kind of programs we are going to be funding. Then we moved to sports. Again, within the sports, there was a gentleman that mentioned a very critical issue to say in their communities or our communities, everyone plays soccer or netball. And when we want to be intentional about transformation, we need to have amanye sporting infrastructures that were not traditionally being played by black people or in rural areas or townships. And he made an example of things like swimming, your rugby, your cricket, your hockey, etc., and creating indoor facilities in this also in these places. You understand? So this is another thing that they are looking at to say, as NLC, let's look at those facilities so that when we speak of talent identification, we speak of transformation, we also come from the bottom, which is the grassroots level, to ensure that there's equity in that sports and diversity. So it's one of the things that was brought up there. The issue again of skills development came out, and I think Ubaba Usibanyoni mentioned it. The training of the coaches, the training of administrators of sport. But very key to that is to say, while they are being trained, again, it goes back to have amaphepha anani accreditation. When you speak it for long, you know, I can tell you. Sometimes I must stick to my language, but what I'm saying is, I made an example that some of us are coming from a very privileged space where our kids are going to private schools and also the form of Model C schools, where those coaches get to be employed and they move between those schools because the papers they have as coaches, they are recognized. You know? So now the intention also, let's also provide such training to those that are in rural areas and townships so that they can get opportunities so that they become employable. The other issue that was raised is the girls' sport. To say, what are we doing when it comes to girls' sport as an organization to fund the girl child so that they too, when they come out of schools, they have opportunities ukuthi badlale sport. Another matter that was brought up, and this is related to across, and I know advocate, my learned friend here, I don't know whether you will correct me, is the issue of this restriction in sectors. Because you are in ECD, you can't apply for something within the sports sector. Our delegates are saying we must have what we call cross-sectorial funding. It means as an ECD, if you see what you want to provide music to the kids, you must be allowed to buy your instrument, equipment, you understand, to promote art within that space. It shouldn't be limited. What then followed to that question was how we also craft our call, that our call tend to be very stringent. We tell organizations what they must apply. Organizations don't tell us what they need. So the request is we are requesting, we are a village, we are requesting the call be as broad as possible. In that way, organization can be able to pick up and say, but this is my need. And within the broader call for application, I then say, this is what I need, rather than being restricted and being pushed into a corner to say, this is what you should be looking at. There was a very interesting one, but it speaks to the issues of access to sporting facilities for rural areas and other areas. Where's the gentleman that mentioned the issue of horse racing, which was quite interesting, but it also speaks about the diversification of sports. Within the arts and sector and culture, digital technology, the mention of indigenous games, promotion of indigenous games in our communities, considering that we are rural, to say we need to be very intentional about that. and Jody and the board, this one came out very strongly. The issue of environment and the potential it has. One is the potential, but two is the risk that is not addressed in rural areas when it comes to debt and invasive species, our rivers being dirty and all those things. What are we doing in rural areas? Because the urban centers have got facilities which are municipal services, but the rural areas, when it comes to biodiversity, to waste factors, which is recycling, the water contamination, and all those things, what are we doing about it? That there was a call to say, in the last few calls, we have been excluding such, but specifically we need to be intentional so that those can also happen on the other, in rural areas. I think basically that is, in a nutshell, a highlight of what we would have discussed as a commission, and a call that has been made to say, let's go back and consult more. We will definitely do that in terms of meeting with the traditional leadership, Sindane is here, and other stakeholders, so that when we do then draft a call that is specific to Mpumalanga, we would have considered all the views and all the inputs of other stakeholders. But I would like to appreciate the group that we had. I think we moved from an individual perspective to more of a village questions and village concerns, and I appreciate your input that you had. And I think I have tried to capture your concerns. I have tried to capture also your input and proposals. If there's anything else, then the colleagues that I had who are scrapping will be able to take note of such. But let me appreciate you and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sindane. Can I get a clap of hands from me, please? I can't stand here for such a long time and not get it. I mean, I know. So, and now I've got questions that I needed to reply to before we allow the other commissioner to come on board. In terms of the application of provinces versus the national, and I think I will allow Andre to answer that. But we shouldn't have such issues. An organization is an address. You put an address there, but your impact can be national. So we'll have to look at that. It shouldn't be an issue. We will deal with that and to say what are the causes. The issue of bank accounts by the NPOs, I think Andre will have raised that and addressed that to say we will need resolutions from the board. We come from a very traumatic background, good people, where there are people that came into our system with intention to defraud your money. You understand? So right now we are tightening up. So if you are changing bank accounts, please let us know. Let's have those resolutions signed. The proposal by advocate to say we should be having different bank accounts, I think as ESCO we'll have to talk about it. It might be progressive, but what does it say in terms of the financial statement when we have to account for it? But I think it's a progressive suggestion. In that way, when we get that account, we know that it's only the NLC bank account, nothing else. But it's something that we will consider. There's portal glitches, which is not friendly. Andre will address that. I must state, good people, we acknowledge that there's been challenges with the system. And we have worked very hard to ensure that we address those challenges. We sit weekly with the team, us as grant funding, with the ICT team, addressing those issues. We have help desks that have come to your villages, your communities to address those. But behind the scenes, the technical team is actively resolving those issues. And we do apologize for such, but I can assure you, NLC, when we say we are funding for impact, it also starts from us giving you an impactful service. That means providing a seamless service from the beginning, right up until you get your funding to where you close the project. So we are working, and I think Andre will touch on that. And the issue of provincial MOUs, I think it speaks to the traditional leadership that we would have had to say, how do we work with other stakeholders? We've had the Department of Social Development here, and we are making the circle bigger to ensure that all the stakeholders that are involved in the sector we all come together so that we are able to assist you, either in compliance, either in implementing your project, in monitoring, evaluation of your project, in reporting, and governance issues, because your issues impact your communities that you are serving. So all of us as stakeholders, we are coming together to address such. So yeah, I think those are the ones that I have. Thanks. Thank you, good, thank you.
I would like to call upon our next speaker. No. For NLC modernization, Andre Kritzenga.
That didn't sound very enthusiastic, so obviously I'm standing between you and lunch, you know. So I'm not going to repeat what my colleagues mentioned to you. There were a lot of issues around DSD and stuff like that, but I understand the regional manager for, provincial manager for DSD is here. There were some challenges there. I indicated about the POC on their new system and so on. The one thing that did come out is I know that we've addressed access to our environment in terms of free-to-air bandwidth. It's something that we can raise with Mpo at one of the senior people at DSD to see what they can do. Because they also, if they're launching a new online system, it came out that perhaps what they're looking to do is also making that sort of bandwidth available to them. A couple of big things came out of our things, and at this juncture, I'd just like to thank the group that I was able to interact with for their very forthright and constructive suggestions. They didn't just come with complaints, they came with solutions in many instances. So one of the things that came out very clearly is that people find they've got technology limitations in terms of how to use the system. So one of the things that came out is the need for outreach programs, particularly into rural areas and regional areas. And the possibility of perhaps having a mobile type environment where young people can go out, to quote them, attractive young people with technology proficiencies can go out and help the stakeholders out in the regions doing that. And I was fortunate enough to meet a very nice young lady called Precious Mashlangu, I think it is. Is that right? She's standing over here. She's sitting over here. And she happens to be the regional, the national director or national coordinator for youth for Controlesa. And for example, they proposed that perhaps we can piggyback on their outreach programs because they do the same thing, because really it's about youth unemployment and so on. And one of our key targets from the ministry is to what extent our grants are in fact contributing towards addressing our national employment problem. The issue of bank accounts came out again strongly. I'm not going to rehash everything that my colleagues have covered. But there was one person who mentioned that it was difficult to get things going from an NPO point of view because you need to we have a requirement to register a bank account. Otherwise, you can't register with us as an applicant. And they find that because of the time that it takes to get a grant, it's difficult from an application point of view to get the application through because the bank account's inactive and the bank starts giving them administration. So the whole issue of bank accounts is something that we need to look at. My colleague, Mr. Ngubani, spoke about the resolutions and so on, and I mentioned it in my earlier presentation. Make sure that you've got compliance around those bank account changes and so on. Sorry, this computer's just died on me. I don't know what the problem is, but anyway, I'll remember it out of hand. So just to summarize, it's those issues around the outreach programs, putting it making it easier for people to use. The big issue of outreach into regional components and making it easier for those people to get access to our environment. And that DSD should also look at it from the point of view that, you know, as we've given people access in broadband, we need to make sure that there's the possibility of getting out into the regions themselves, but in terms of broadband access. One of the solutions to that is, of course, to try and put some sort of mobile operation in place where people can go and either be instructed as to how to use the system, and in fact also look at the possibility of people being able to do a walk-in type arrangement where you've got terminals that are available or infrastructure that's available for people to do their application on a regional basis. There were some very good suggestions around having an online chat room. So in other words, you can use online chat by WhatsApp or through the call center to have a direct online chat to get people to walk you through the problems that you're experiencing. I'm just trying to think. There was one last issue that I wanted to mention, and that was the issue around there was an important issue I wanted to mention to you. Sorry, the Madala Madluputi's memory is failing him. It was important. Is there somebody who can just get me into this machine quickly? Whose machine is this? Yes. Do you know whose machine this is, Jabulani? Sorry. Yeah, the Commissioner's just mentioned about prioritizing. That also came out in our stream, by the way, that people who were unsuccessful. Oh, there was another observation. People were saying if the amount of applicants decreases, well, then that's a barometer of how the system is not working, right? And I agree with that. But there's also Parkinson's rule, which says that the consumption will expand to consume the available capacity. And what we found is that normally we typically get in the region, Commissioner, of what, about 6,000 applications in the year with the old system. And the last call now, thank you, thanks Jabulani. The last call now, so as I was saying, we used to get in the region about 7,000 or 8,000 applications a year. We'd issue about 2,500 or 3,000 grants. In the last call, we had well over 17,000 applications. And that's just vindication of the fact of the accessibility. But the minute we make it that much more available to everybody in our country, that's going to jump. And we've tried to size our environment or put the servers in place that can manage 30, 40, and 50,000 applications per call. Obviously, the NLC has a limited purse in terms of how much it can award, right? So there were, for example, suggestions that people who complied excellently this year but were just not afforded the opportunity of a grant, that they be prioritized in the next call, for example. And it's something that we would have to look at from a policy decision, but I'm going to leave that to the Commissioner and the Board. There were some direct systems issues that were raised with us, and we'll deal with those ticket numbers as we go along. And we spoke a bit about the joint outreaches with people like Contralesa and other organizations where we piggyback and focus on those. There was also the opportunity of an online chat bot, for example, for simple questions and answers where you can go in, I want to do this, and it tells you how to go about doing that. The other thing that came out was the issue of the quick reference guidelines in terms of how to use the system a little bit easier. My colleague, Advocate Boyang, spoke a bit about that and translating it into the 12 official languages, including Braille. And then there were some specific issues which we will deal with, that I'll deal with and I'll take into account when we start looking at enhancements to the system. The difficulty with which to upload, for example, information once a grant is complete and we need additional information. I think somebody mentioned the fact that in order for a grant to go through, if you're applying for funding and a budget, you've got to upload the number of employees or the people that are working for you. And people come and go, and how it's difficult to change that, and we need to make sure that our systems are friendly in such a way to that we can do that. And that basically was all the issues that were raised by us. I just want to double check. And that is it. I'm not going to add anything more because they were adequately covered by these learned gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the feedback. I hope moving forward, Mpumalanga won't have any IP-related issues in terms of challenge to Tuga. Our problem will be solved. Colleagues, allow me now to call on stage NLC Commissioner, Ms. Jody Scott, to provide the summary of the day.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for bearing with us. The team have put together a summary of all of these issues, and I just want to pull out one or two that I think is already in the pipeline, some of which are new areas, and I think Jabu Mzwa will definitely look at those. So from my side, on behalf of myself, the Commission, the board members, it's been a really great session getting these inputs from yourselves. I think just in terms of SARS, when I started in this position, in my first week, I met with the SARS team. And the one thing that they said to me is that if we don't ensure compliance, they'll close our bank accounts down, because we are also, as an entity, we're mandated to ensure that we adhere to all of the tax legislation. And that came a bit of as a shock, because we thought, sure, we didn't even ask. We had published the call, and we didn't include tax compliance certificates. So we had to go back and look at that. In terms of SARS support, at the National Indaba, Commissioner Kisvetter had allocated one of his executive managers to be part of that. So it's just in how they budget and government's financial year-end processes, because SARS can help us from the 1st of April. So from the 1st of April in the new financial year, we've given them our requirements, and they are making colleagues available to partner with us, because we are finding that some of the issues around tax compliance is an inhibitor to funding. And I think, as Lesedi has indicated, that's something that we can't, our hands are tied, because if we are not compliant, it then puts our entire funding at risk. I like the idea about the encourage the appointment of auditors. I think that's something that, as a team, we need to look at, because we're finding many of the reasons for decline is that NPOs, NPCs are getting these statements outside of the audited financial periods. Because you're getting it pro bono, you're waiting for the person to do that work, and so we need to rethink how we can assist in that regard, and I think that's quite important. The skills requirements fully support that. Bookkeeping, financial systems. I think we've spoken about language, and then support for rejected applicants, and I think that's something we need to think about, how we expand that going forward, what needs to be put in place. So I think that's also critically important. What we found, we started awareness campaign. So we would go into a particular area. We would then announce that in 2 weeks' time we're coming. Please bring your documentation. And we're seeing that there was a direct correlation between us having those kinds of engagements and increased compliance rates. So that's the kind of model that we're wanting to push forward as we go along, and fully take the point that we need to move into areas. Not just city centers or hubs. We need to get out into the rural areas. So the idea about mobile support is also absolutely important. I think just in terms of infrastructure, Mzwa, you're correct. We took out infrastructure. Given all of the corruption around that, we didn't have the skills internally to ensure that. We've been able to bring on board a panel of multidisciplinary engineering firms who can then help us with that. So absolutely critically important, because if you think about an ECD, if you're not having access to water, to sanitation, you actually can't function. And so it goes back to those norms and standards. Rural sporting programs, absolutely. I think it's going to require us, the cross-sectorial aspect of funding, I think that also is going to require us just to think about how we manage that differently. So I think that's also quite important. Environmental programs, we are looking at a partnership with an international IPO. We're wanting to pilot this. I still need to take this matter to the board, but it's looking at cleaning up rivers, biodiversity issues, water access, clean water access, sanitation access. And so there's a proposal on the table, and the team and I are engaging with that space. So absolutely critical, because South Africa, we are a water scarce country. Yet our behavior in terms of water and water usage and water management is that this is like an ever-flowing spring. Yet, if you just look at how South Africa is mapped globally, we're in the red. And so we do need to think about water usage, and particularly, we had the MEC Mabuza yesterday talk about Mpumalanga being an agricultural province. How do you then bring in smart, climate-resistant farming practices? And those are quite important, because water is central to everything. And so we are doing some work in that space. And so we'll be advertising what that is and how we can support that. Our approach is to identify a partner, do a small project, see how that works, and then see how we can roll and scale that out, rather than going out in a big bang approach and not being able to make the impact and get the delivery that we want. I just want to indicate, when we started with the rollout of Tutuka, and people would say, the system isn't working. We then went and brainstormed I think the colleagues will tell you, every afternoon, every week, what are the issues? How are we doing this? And one of the things we have realized is it's around a connectivity issue. So our system operates on 4G, and in many of our rural areas, it's 3G. So we've subsequently been able to now partner with all of the telecoms, MTN, Telkom, Vodacom, to ensure that the coverage is 4G. And so those are the issues that we're looking at in the back end to make sure that the system doesn't buffer. So when people say the system is buffering, and we match that with the data, we see, oh no, they're in a 3G area. So that explains then why the system is buffering. So the mobile, the going out to visit, those are some of the interventions we need to put in place to make sure that everybody has access to our platform. I think just on training, on reporting requirements, simplifying our templates, absolutely important. I think Lesedi has already indicated that we've started looking at the 12 official languages, changing the grant agreement, because you're right, English is not everybody's first language, and you need to know what you're signing for and how you need to then manage the compliance requirements. So making sure that it's in the vernac is also important. I think just looking at all of the feedback, one of the things that I've taken away just in terms of my personal to-do list is to look at partnerships. So we have partnered with DSD. In fact, when towards the end of the call, we had 5 DSD officials in the NLC offices assisting us, but I think we need to I need to take that forward to the DG of DSD and say, listen, can we do this at a provincial level to enable compliance? So I think without repeating many of the areas, I think what we've taken out is strengthening governance, compliance, looking at our funding, making sure it's aligned to key social, sports, cultural priorities, looking at digital access to ensure inclusivity, a big focus on outreach and capacity building. And I think we've started, the board certainly has been mandating me and instructing me to look at our capacity building to make sure that it's what everybody needs. So it's not just pulling people into a classroom and saying, we've taken you the financial management skills course, but you can't then actually do bookkeeping. So how do we look at that? So that's what we've planned for the 26-27 financial year. I think, Program Director, just in terms of our next steps, we'll package all of these. There is a general report. Rudani, has that Indaba report been put on our website? Not yet. So the November one, we still need to put on our website. And then what we also need to do is these provincial ones, we also need to put on our website as a record of the discussions. And then we report on these quarterly. So please watch out for that. Follow us on our social media platforms. We post updates about what it is we're doing. And on my side and on behalf of the colleagues within the Commission, thank you very much to each and every one of you, especially all of you who've traveled such far distances to come and voice your concerns, put your issues on the table. And our commitment is to take these, package these, and put these into work programs so that in the next year, when we come back, we can see tangible difference that we've actually made. So thank you very much to all of you. Okay. Could I just ask the three individuals who shared your case studies with us just to come up? I think it's Stephanie. PJ is not in the room. No, please come up. We just have a small token of appreciation. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Just a small token.
I will take one on behalf of PJ, Commissioner.
You can't, Jabu. We'll caretake it and you'll give it to him.
Yes. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for the summary. One thing I will request from now is that after the last speaker or the vote of thanks, we will flight in the QR code. I'm kindly requesting you to scan that QR code. That's where you will be conducting the survey of this workshop, whether it was a success or not a success. We need your opinion in terms of the survey. I will then call upon Acting Chief Operation Officer, Mr. Mzwani Longubane, to provide the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Program Director. There's a team that some of us support, and when we're about to win, we say "Sekusele kancane," which definitely means that we are almost done. And my job is very simple. It's just to say thank you and to give a vote of thanks. This one, as drafted, advocate says as instructed. Let me take this opportunity to say thank you to Prof. Pichane and the board for the leadership and the guidance and the commitment in ensuring that the resolution of 2025 are actually being implemented, and we continue to guide our work as the National Lotteries Commission It's a commitment that was made in November. And today, and yesterday and from today, it shows that the board that is leading us, it's serious about interacting with our stakeholders. So I really like to appreciate yourselves, the board, siyabonga kakhulu for the guidance esinikeza yona. We do appreciate that. But I would also like to thank Jody. Jody came into the NLC about 3-4 years ago, in a space where it was a bit messy. And I must say that the strategic vision and the direction that she has given this organization, we are here, good people, because of that oversight and that dedication that Jody has shown to say we need to be there for our people and we need to engage with our people. And today, from yesterday, is part of that. So thank you, Jody, for everything that you have done. She's not alone today. She walks side by side, is like bodyguards. The executive management, they are here. They remind Jody of the commitments that she has made and hold her accountable to say, we agreed on this. And I would like to thank ESCO that is present here and that is not present, the Tinas, the Vincent, and everyone that is involved. Ukuthi NLC today, as you see it, branded, our reputation rising, we are rising, and we are becoming stronger. It's because of that strong ESCO that we have that holds Jody accountable. So wherever you are, ESCO, we appreciate you and we thank you. But I would also like to extend also to our management who are on the ground and doing the work. In the case of Mpumalanga, we've got Sindane and his team who actually do the so-called dirty work. And without them, the interaction and all your troubles and all your successes, we will not get to know them. So thank you to the NLC management, in this case, Sindane and your team, for the work that you are doing. I would also like to thank you. And maybe I'll end this one. No, they will be the last one, these ones. Let me also thank our partners who are the social development. Umages Piwe was here, but also others from CICP for their continued collaboration in ensuring that our grant funding is actually transparent. We are held to account for all the decisions that we are taking. And most importantly, it's impactful. Without this kind of MOUs and working together, I don't think as NLC will be here. So we'd like to thank our partners for working with us side by side. So thank you to them. Mr. Sindane, thank you being a program manager. We appreciate you for the work that you have done. We appreciate your province for the work that they've done. It was yesterday sweating and running up and down. I think they've done a great job in coordinating this. But I would also like to say thank you to the, it's a long thing, SMMC team. Yeah, that's the one, the Rosanes, the Amandas, you name Clay and all of them. I sent a WhatsApp yesterday to say it's a beautiful team to work with. They get you online. So we are here looking all beautiful with the water, the food, the tables, the venues, the transport, everything that we see today. There's people that are behind it. Are they here? Can we give them a very good stop? Can you please stand up? Where's your team? Ruzane, the ladies, where's the team? This is a great team. Can we give them? Thank you. And we'd like to thank the media for actually playing a very critical role in sharing our story, the impact that NLC is making and the impact yourselves are making as beneficiaries. So thank you to the media that is here, that was here yesterday. We'll continue to work with you. And the one thing about the board and the executive is that we are very open. So we are not scared to be asked questions and to be held accountable. So we invite the media to hold us accountable for the work that we do. So we thank you, the media, for working with us and calling us out whenever we go left and we depart from our mandate. Thank you to the media. But I left this one for last because we are here today because of the heroes that, which is yourselves, which is the grantees. I say lutho ngaphandle kwenu. We are nothing without you. The NLC's work is nothing without you. And I would like to say thank you. The work that you do, waking up in the morning and doing it sometimes without pay, we appreciate it as your partner. And we want to make it easy for you to actually fulfill your mandate and actually meet the needs in our communities. And I would like you to also encourage you not to be shy to complain. We get better if you say we are not giving you the service. So don't be shy. And let's get rid of corruption and fraud, report them. So thank you to each and every one of you for everything that we have done, for the work that you're doing in your communities. And with those words, as we close, let's carry on forward the insight and the lessons and the commitment that we have made and we have shared. Together, let's ensure that the resources that have been entrusted by the National Lotteries Distribution Fund continue to uplift our communities and transform the lives. Nginibonga kakhulu, ngiyanithanda kakhulu, and phambili ngeMpumalanga phambili.